That's right, it's time once again for yet another Palydyn Presents Top 10. And what do we have for you all this week? How about I give you my picks for the top 10 games for the TURBOGRAFX-16 system?
Good idea.
Hey everybody, I need you to do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and throw us a like and help us continue to grow and give you more great gaming content. Well, enough of my rambling. Here are my picks for the 10 greatest games for the TURBOGRAFX-16.
Number 10. Keith Courage in Alpha Zone.
This game was released in the fall of 1989 as a pack-in game for the TURBOGRAFX-16 when it launched in North America. In this science fiction fantasy platformer, you play as, yeah, you guessed it, Keith, fighting the forces of BAD, or Beastly Alien Dudes, as they try and conquer the Earth. All the game action takes place in the overworld and the underworld, or for you more educated people out there, above ground and underground. When in the underworld, Keith gets to wear his Nova suit. Spoken! A set of super armor that basically turns him into a walking battleship. Throughout the game, you collect coins to buy bombs, equipment upgrades, and health regen. Despite it being a launch title, which more times than not are throwaway titles, let's be honest, Keith Courage in Alpha Zones was actually quite fun and one of the better titles for the system. That's why it lands at number 10 on my list.
Number 9. Dungeon Explorer.
Dungeon Explorer was released in North America for the TURBOGRAFX-16 just a few months after the console launch in 1989. In this action RPG, you play as one of 8 main characters in the mythical land of Odessia, where you must find the Aura Stone to defeat the evil wizard Nautus and foil his attempt to conquer the world. The top-down perspective of the game looks and feels much the same as the classic game Gauntlet as you journey across the land. The game also allowed for up to 5 players simultaneously, with lives shared among them. Critics and gamers back then, hey, they really liked this game. Critics today, well, surprise, surprise, have not been so kind, comparing it to games that came out after that had better graphics and better gameplay. You know, that's a lot like saying the original Star Wars sucked because movies with better special effects came out after it. You know what? Forget about all these fools. After all, they're the same ones that brought us the last Star Wars trilogy. Wah, wah. Just do me a favor and play this game and appreciate it for what it was at the time.
Number 8. Bloody Wolf.
Originally released for the arcade in Japan in 1988, Bloody Wolf eventually made its way to the TURBOGRAFX-16 in North America in 1990. The game was your typical side-scrolling run-and-gun action where up to 2 players could fight through waves of bad guys using knives and machine guns. The game makes my number 8 spot because it was just plain fun. In the 1980s, cinema was dominated by Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, starring in one action blockbuster after another. If you were to take Rambo and Commando and replace them with dudes named Snake and Eagle, you can make a pretty good action game. The result was Bloody Wolf.
Number 7. BONK'S Revenge.
If you're looking for a 2D platformer featuring a big-headed caveman from the Stone Age, well then I guess BONK'S Revenge is a game just for you. A console exclusive when it released in North America in 1991, the game sees Bonk on a quest to recover half the moon. Yes, half the moon. From the evil King Drool III. He's the third Drool? Really? No spit, vomit, or snot? That's kind of strange. Anyways, Bonk makes his way through multiple stages, jumping, headbutting, aka bonking, and biting through the game. Bonk can also gobble down meat to gain additional powers throughout the game. Sorry, vegetarians. Bonk's Revenge was the second installment in the series of games and is hailed today as one of the best games ever for the TurboGrafx-16 by many. I will go ahead and wholeheartedly agree, and that's why I've got Bonk's Revenge at number 7 on my list.
Number 6, Cadash.
Owners of the TurboGrafx-16 were introduced to Cadash in 1991, a game that combined role-playing with platformer action. The plot is fairly straightforward. You play as the hero in a medieval fantasy world where you must stop legions of demons that emerge from their underground kingdom to destroy humanity once and for all. The demonic wizard known as, quote-unquote, the Balrog, no, not that one, has kidnapped the princess of the last great kingdom of humans left and whisked her away to the underground castle of Cadash. As the hero, you must rescue her.
Piece of cake.
In the TurboGrafx-16 version, you can play as one of 4 character types: fighter, mage, priestess, and ninja. Later versions of the game on the Sega Genesis had only fighter and mage available. You want to see where action RPGs got their start? Do yourself a favor and check out Cadash.
Number 5, Military Madness.
Number 5 on my list just happens to be a turn-based strategy game, which was a rare thing on a console full of platformers. Military Madness has you playing as the Allied Union, who in the year 2089 is locked in a bitter struggle against the Axis Xenon Empire, who rule on the moon. You're in charge of defeating them and bringing peace to the world. Military Madness had 3 modes of gameplay that included single player, tutorial mode, and finally 2-player versus mode. The game did well in Japan, but it really failed to gain a following in North America, in part because of the dominance at the time of Nintendo and Sega. You know, this was a bit unfortunate because the game was a lot of fun, definitely ahead of its time way back in 1990.
Number 4, the legendary axe.
Well, slap me silly and call me Billy. Another side-scrolling action platformer. And despite the fact that the legendary axe was one action platformer among many on the TurboGrafx-16, it was also one of the best. Take on the cult of Jagu as the hero Gogan in his quest to rescue his friend Flair from being sacrificed by the evil cult. How does he do this? By using the legendary axe known as Sting. No, not that one. Or that one either. Players journey through 6 unique levels, or zones as they are called, which include jungles, mountains, and caves, fighting monsters and other creatures with your axe. Eventually you reach Zone 6, and you take on the big man Jagu himself. The legendary axe was hailed as one of the best games, not just for the TurboGrafx-16, but for any console at the time. The legendary axe hits number 4 on my list.
Number 3, Blazing Lasers.
Based on the Japanese film Gunhead, this vertical scrolling shooter debuted for North American gamers on the TurboGrafx-16 in 1989 as a launch title for the console. Fly the Gunhead Advanced Starfighter against the infamous Dark Squadron and destroy their super weapons. Blazing lasers allowed players to fight units and bosses, lose lives, gain power-ups, upgrade weapons, etc., etc. Standard stuff, right? So what made Blazing Lasers any different? Fast action, great graphics, great sound, cool bosses to fight, and hours of fun gameplay to name just a few. Blazing Lasers did it better than anyone else at the time. Don't want to take my word for it? Then take a look at what gamers and critics at the time were saying. even 10 years after the game's release, Electronic Gaming Monthly rated this game as one of the 100 best games of all time. To quote the famous philosopher Forrest Gump,
and that's all I have to say about that.
Number 2, Devil's Crush.
a video pinball game at number 2 on my list? What are you smoking, Palydyn? Just brisket on my back porch, thank you. Okay, first off, the game looked really cool. Now, I'm not a fan of anything demonic and evil looking in art, but Devil's Crush had some awesome graphics for the time. The North American version was actually censored, with all the demonic symbols, coffins, and crucifixes being replaced by other art. The gameplay was also fantastic. The game was a free scrolling pinball table with 3 screens in length, with 3 pairs of flippers. You could also nudge the game with the tilt button on the controller to change the direction of the pinball. Do it too much and you'll tilt the machine and the flippers are going to stop working. Devil's Crush was truly a gaming masterpiece, and yet another one ahead of its time. Have you not seen some of your favorite games on the TurboGrafx-16? Well, have no fear. Here are some of the games that just missed making my top 10 list.
Number 1, Ninja Spirit.
Number 1 on my list will not come as a surprise to many of you, considering how many lists out there have Ninja Spirit ranked as one of the best games for TurboGrafx-16. Am I just trying to be part of the crowd? Am I just going with the flow? Well, yes. Yes, I am. How can I not when Ninja Spirit is that great of a game? In the game, you play as a young ninja on a quest to avenge the loss of your dad to a strange half-man, half-beast creature. You play through various stages in this platform game, 7 to be exact, each in a different environment. At the end of each stage, you've got to fight a boss to advance. You have a variety of weapons at your disposal that include your trusty katana, shurikens, bombs, and the kusurigama. Ninja Spirit looks fantastic and it plays even better. It's one of those games that's just a blast to play. In my opinion, Ninja Spirit was one of the best console games of the early 90s and is my pick for the best game of the TurboGrafx-16. Well, that wraps up another train wreck, top 10 list. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you all again next time. See ya, suckers!